Hey everybody, welcome back from break, and thanks so much for following one of the ground rules that we established this morning, which was to be on time. So I appreciate that, and I know your colleagues do too. So before break, we introduced this week-long journey that we're on, Dare to Lead. We talked about the high-level learning objectives for the course and the high-level agenda for the class. And I gave you a little bit of background on myself so you know what to expect from me as a facilitator and where I come from a leadership perspective. And then, but most of the time before break, we talked about you and we went around the room and gave each of you a really good opportunity to tell us who you are, the organization you work for, the leadership challenges that you're facing right now, and each of you had a chance to tell us what your expectations are for the class. I appreciate that. You guys are, you're a great group of people, and I think we come from a diverse enough background that we will really learn a lot from each other. And so I put the expectations on the flip chart over here, and at the end of each day, I'll come back to that and make sure that we're checking in to make sure that we're getting close to meeting your expectations as the week goes by. But one of the things I have a hope for, one of the expectations I have, is that we are able to not only meet all of these expectations, but exceed your expectations. So you leave this workshop knowing that this was very much worth your while. I know from my experience when I've gone to workshops, one of the things that makes it so valuable for me is the people in the class and how much I'm able to interact and learn about them and learn from them. There's all sorts of a wealth of information and background and perspectives about leadership in this class. So you'll find that throughout the 5 days, I'm going to give you lots of opportunities to interact with each other, to talk to each other, to share, to participate. I'm going to encourage you during breaks and lunch to talk to each other and get to know each other, and hopefully in the evenings you'll also have a chance to do that, so that when you leave at the end of the week, you have 14 new people that you know you can call on when you have a question or a concern or just want to bounce something off somebody, because you know that these people are on a similar leadership journey to yours. So that's my expectation. All right, turn to page 5 in your manual. Let's get started. So the first excuse me, the first module is what is a leader and how to become an effective one. And there are four sections under this module. The first thing we're going to do is identify characteristics of a successful leader and talk about strengths and weaknesses, which is one of my key areas around leadership. And then we're going to learn the difference between what's management and leadership. As you all know, there's all sorts of conversation about that. And then we're going to discover the core competencies needed for successful leadership. And then all of those are all great, but if you can't gain the support, the trust, the credibility with others, you can't be a truly successful leader. So that will be the last module, and we'll probably get to that sometime mid-afternoon. And so that's what we're going to work on in the next couple of hours. So as we get started, let's talk about what is a leader. And so can each of you, or a few of you, just tell me how you define leadership or what you think is a leader. Okay, great. So what did we learn from that? What we learned from that is all of you have slightly different, similar, but slightly different views of what a leader is. If you go to Amazon.com, Harvard Business Review, Barnes and Noble, there's something like 98,000 books on leadership on Amazon.com. So it's broad and big, and everybody's got a different perspective, and everybody's got a different view of what makes an effective leader. And so for the purposes of this class, I want us to approach this subject with one definition, knowing that there are many, but I want us to approach it with one definition. And that definition is pretty high level. It's the capacity to translate vision into reality. And so that's the definition we're going to use for Dare to Lead. Translate the ability, the capacity to translate vision to reality. And so it doesn't matter, all of you in this room, we've got directors of human resources, we've got directors of finance, we have somebody that's an executive director at a nonprofit. All of you are in different places. Doesn't matter what your position is, doesn't matter the organization that you work for. Your job as a leader is to take your vision, the organization's vision, the division's vision, whatever that is, and being able to translate that to reality. And notice it's not translated so people understand it. It's not translated so that you can repeat it. It's translated to reality, meaning results. And in order to get results, you've got to be able to bring people along, and you've got to understand yourself. So that's the definition that we're going to use, and we'll come back to that over and over and over again so that we really test it out with the kinds of work that we're going to do over the next 5 days. All right, so we've talked about, you've given us some thoughts about what you think leadership is. I've given you a definition that we can work with. We've talked about the 4 things we're going to talk about on this module, so let's do some work. So let's talk about the characteristics of successful leaders. So the first thing I want you to do is all think about a successful leader that you know about. And that could be somebody in your organization, it could be somebody that you work for, it could be somebody in an organization you worked with before, it could be somebody outside, some professional organization that you belong to. It could be a world political leader, religious leader, and could be living or dead. So if you've read a biography of a world leader that you very much admire, it could be that person. I have a book, Lincoln on Leadership, that I really love to refer back to and see how he approached leadership. So it could be anybody. All right, now that you've got those names, I have a deck of cards that you'll see, and I'm going to randomly give each of you 5 cards. I want you to go through and they've got characteristics of leaders: risk taker, sincere, competitive, accurate, just characteristics. And so I want you to take those 5 and discard 2, keep 3 that you think really are good descriptions of the leader that you chose. Now that you've done that, I want you to get up off of your chair, and I want you to walk around the room, meet people you haven't met before, talk to them about the leader you chose, maybe a little bit about why you chose them, and the 3 characteristics that you chose, and see if you can trade. They might have a characteristic that you think better describes the leader that you chose, and they might have something that you want, and you might have something they want. So make a trade if you can. I'm going to give you 2 minutes again because I want you to be able to talk through this a little bit and meet the people that you're talking to. Okay, we obviously have great participation in this class. It sounds like you're having a good time talking about leadership and the leaders that you chose. So let's all come back. By this time, you should have 3 cards that you feel pretty good about with your leader. So can I get about 3 people to tell me who the leader is, why you chose that leader, and then why you picked the 3 cards that you picked? Okay, good. And we've got lots of different, we've got a world leader, we've got a business leader, somebody picked their manager, which is great. So we've got all sorts of different leaders here, which is good for good conversation. You'll notice over on the side of the wall, I've got a piece of paper. It's already got sticky stuff on it. Would you just take your 3 cards and stick it up there randomly? I just want to see all of the different characteristics that you all picked for the leaders that you chose. Okay, what do you take from this exercise? Why did we do it, and what do you think is important about this? All right, good conversation, and thanks Sue for your comments. Yeah, the reason that we do this is because I want you to see the breadth of characteristics that leaders bring. There is not one perfect leader. Bill Gates is different than Pope Francis. Hillary Clinton is different than Barack Obama. The CEO of your organization is different than the CEO of the organization that you came before. And some of those differences have to do with strengths and weaknesses that we're going to talk about in a minute. But they also have to do with characteristics. And so it's not a one-size-fits-all. Unfortunately, if leadership was one-size-fits-all and you could take it off the shelf and read it, then it wouldn't be such a hard thing to do. And so it is unique to each individual, and that's what we're going to talk about now. Okay, any questions, any thoughts, any other comments that you want to bring up around this conversation about characteristics? All right, so let's talk about strengths and weaknesses that leaders have, that you all have. As an executive coach, this is one of the things that I spend a lot of time on in my executive coaching practice, is really helping people think about what their strengths and weaknesses are, because that's knowing what your strengths are, what's going to make you be able to translate that vision to reality is really important, but it's equally important to know what might hold you back. And those weaknesses are what might hold you back, and being really aware of them is important. If you turn to page 7 of your manual, there's an exercise that you can take for us to start sorting through what are your strengths and weaknesses. So we've talked about big picture, what's this workshop about? We've talked about definitions of leadership. We've talked about characteristics of leaders. Now we're going to start talking about you. We're going to start talking about what you bring to the table and what might be holding you back. And so we're going to spend quite a bit of time talking about strengths and weaknesses. And so I'm going to give you 5 minutes to do this exercise because I want you to really think through it. All right, now that the 5 minutes is up, I want you just at your table. Can you talk a little bit about what you covered and what you maybe a story or two about your strengths and weaknesses? Okay, can we share now? Can we share just a couple of stories? All right, Abigail, thank you so much for sharing that because that was a great story to illustrate just what I was saying. You know that you bring some amazing things to your organization and to your team, but you also know that there's something that holds you back, and that something that holds you back is it's hard for you to see big picture. You can see the steps, you can accomplish the steps, but seeing the big picture is harder for you. And you know that because you've gotten feedback from your manager and your employees. And so it's something that you're working on. I really appreciate you telling that story because that helps illustrate for all of us the difficulties that we have as we struggle with those weaknesses, those things that can hold us back. This afternoon, we're going to go get into that even more, and I'm going to give you some ideas and suggestions, and we're going to work on ways that not only do you know what your weaknesses are and keep those in mind, but how do you work on those now, tomorrow, and throughout your career. All right, good. Now we're at lunchtime, everybody, and so you've got 1 hour. I'd like to see you back here at 1 o'clock. Again, don't want to be a broken record, but I'm hoping that you'll sit with somebody you haven't met yet. Hopefully it's a gorgeous day outside, so hopefully you get a chance to take a little walk around the block to clear your mind for what's going to be a lot of work this afternoon. So lunch is out the door go down the hall to the right, and then take a left, and you'll see a nice buffet. Good food here, so I hope you enjoy it. I'm here, so just stop and talk if you've got any questions, and I will see you back here at 1 o'clock. Thanks a lot.